Hey, and welcome back, lovely people. And I hope you're all keeping well and staying socially isolated because that seems to be a good policy. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I did a strange film on Event 201, which was a simulation of a pandemic done by John Hopkins University about a coronavirus. It was a round the table simulation with leaders from industry, healthcare, the WHO to discuss how the world would cope with a pandemic. And ironically, they chose a coronavirus as a suspect. But it wasn't just a coincidence that they chose the corona style virus for their pandemic simulation. Those viruses are the type that jump from animals into humans. They're emergent virus types, and they knew that. So it seems that they were very ahead of their time. And so was I. I posted the film on Event 201 about 2 weeks ago while the whole COVID-19 thing was sadly developing, and YouTube decided that nothing to do with viruses could be monetized on their channel. They've now changed their policy, so I thought I would repost the film with a few updates and also discuss what John Hopkins University is doing today. You all know we live in France, which is currently in isolation lockdown, and that's going to continue for another 11, 12 days, and it might be extended. Whether it's working, we don't know yet. Sadly, here in France, deaths are increasing, but our particular rural area has very few cases, and by being isolated from everybody, Dorothy and I are hoping to stay fit, well, and healthy. And I hope you do too. But something that we found that is very useful is actually going back to the John Hopkins University. They've now done a coronavirus or a COVID-19 virus interactive map. In fact, it's got more up-to-date information than the World Health Organization. And I believe governments are actually using the John Hopkins map. We certainly are. And here's some examples of how they show the information. You can interactively click on your country and see cases, deaths, and people who have recovered. So you can see how it's developing, hopefully see how it's getting better. So, of course, I will include a link to the John Hopkins coronavirus information page in the description below. Go and have a look. We're finding it very useful. It's updated every second, so you can see how it's developing. So now things have changed both at YouTube and in the world. Let's go back and have a look at Event 201 in a new light.
The outcome of the CAPS pandemic in Event 201 was catastrophic. 65 million people died in the first 18 months. The outbreak was small at first and initially seemed controllable, but then it started spreading in densely crowded and impoverished neighborhoods of megacities. From that point on, the spread of the disease was explosive. Within 6 months, cases were occurring in nearly every country. The global economy was in a free fall. GDP down 11%. Stock markets around the world plummeted between 20 and 40%.
So what was Event 201? It's really fascinating. In October 2019, the John Hopkins University pulled together the United Nations, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the head of UPS, Marriott Hotels, Lufthansa, and people from all over the world to run a simulation of a pandemic, but not any old pandemic. John Hopkins University came up with a scenario to test these business and political leaders, and it was a coronavirus outbreak.
It began in healthy-looking pigs, months, perhaps years ago. A new coronavirus spread silently within herds. Gradually, farmers started getting sick. Infected people got a respiratory illness with symptoms ranging from mild flu-like signs to severe pneumonia. The sickest required intensive care. Many died. Experts agree, unless it is quickly controlled, it could lead to a severe pandemic, an outbreak that circles the globe and affects people everywhere.
They recorded the event and their reactions and the ideas from these heads of industry and political groups, and they failed. As the scenario ran, they realized that 65 million people in the world were going to die from a global pandemic. You can see and hear the panic in their voices as they're trying to react to these terrible events.
We could be looking at double the number of cases in 1 week and 16 times as many in a month if we are not able to stop the spread. That would be on the order of 500,000 cases, and it would continue to rise exponentially. In 3 months, we could be approaching 10 million cases.
We're at the start of what's looking like it will be a severe pandemic. And there are problems emerging that can only be solved by global business and governments working together.
So, of course, the question is, why did they do it, and how real is it? You've heard it from me before on this channel, and I'm going to say it again. They chose to simulate a coronavirus pandemic because that's what this current virus is. It's a zootropic virus, a virus that crosses from an animal species into humans. We need to completely knock on the head because there's no evidence that it's true, plus it would be rubbish that it's a Wuhan Chinese military produced bioweapon. It's made by animals and humans. But in some ways, that's far more scary. It's no longer a test tube bug with possibly an antidote if it was a smart weapon system. It's a naturally occurring mutation which has leapt from animals into humans in a just opportunistic way and is now thriving. Of course, the irony of hosting a pandemic simulation, Event 201, has not passed by the John Hopkins University, and they've issued this statement. In October 2019, the John Hopkins Center for Health Security hosted a simulation, calling it Event 201, with partners from the UN, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and leaders of industry. For the scenario, we modeled a fictional coronavirus. We are not predicting that the current coronavirus will kill the 65 million people that died in our simulation. Our tabletop discussion was with a fictional virus. Very interesting.
The outcome of the CAPS pandemic in Event 201 was catastrophic. 65 million people died in the first 18 months. The outbreak was small at first and initially seemed controllable, but then it started spreading in densely crowded and impoverished neighborhoods of megacities. From that point on, the spread of the disease was explosive. Within 6 months, cases were occurring in nearly every country. The global economy was in a free fall. The GDP down 11%. Stock markets around the world plummeted between 20 and 40% and headed into a downward cycle of fear and low expectation. Businesses were not borrowing, banks were not lending. Everyone was just hoping to hunker down and weather the storm. Economists say the economic turmoil caused by such a pandemic will last for years, perhaps a decade. The societal impacts, the loss of faith in government, the distrust of news, and the breakdown of social cohesion could last even longer. We have to ask, did this need to be so bad? Are there things we could have done in the 5 to 10 years leading up to the pandemic that would have lessened the catastrophic consequences? We believe the answer is yes. So, are we as a global community now finally ready to do the hard work needed to prepare for the next pandemic?
So what do I think about Event 201? I think they were very smart. I think coronaviruses do emerge, do cross from animals into humans. I think we're currently seeing one. And as you saw from some of the clips, there isn't a worldwide organization who can handle a pandemic. We're already seeing it affecting airlines, transport infrastructure, and economies are tanking. Regions and countries who are isolating groups of the coronavirus are doing a good job, and let's hope it doesn't get any worse. Every day I'm reading stories of people with potential coronavirus symptoms who get on airplanes to fly home and then get the full-blown virus, infecting everybody on the plane and everybody they meet. Don't do it. Stay safe out there, avoid large crowds, wash your damn hands, and be good. The truth is out there.